Okay, real talk. If you've ever spent more than 10 minutes with a 4-year-old, you know the question. Why is the sky blue? Because of how light scatters. But why does it scatter? Because of the atmosphere. But why is there an atmosphere? Because of gravity. But why? And that's when you fake a phone call and escape to the kitchen. But here's the thing, that relentless little why machine, it's not being annoying. It's doing something genuinely remarkable. Something that, scientifically speaking, most creatures on Earth cannot do. So today, let's talk about why kids ask why and what it actually tells us about how human brains work. First, let's establish something. The why phase isn't just kids being difficult. It tends to kick in around age 2 to 3 and goes hard between ages 4 and 5. Researchers have actually studied this, like sat with kids and counted their questions. One study found that some kids ask up to 300 questions a day. 300. That's a question every 3 minutes if they're awake for 15 hours. But here's what's interesting. The questions aren't random. Kids aren't just making noise. Studies show that when they get a real answer to a why question, they're satisfied. They move on. But when you give them a vague or nonsense answer, they push back, they ask again. They're not just asking to hear themselves talk, they're evaluating your answers. Which brings us to the big idea. Kids are running experiments on reality. Here's a wild way to think about it. Your kid isn't just asking questions, they're building a mental model of the world. Cognitive scientists call this causal reasoning, the ability to understand why things happen, not just that they happen. And humans are freakishly good at it compared to other animals. You can teach a crow to use a tool. You can teach a chimp to do a task, but ask them why something works the way it does, blank stare. Kids, on the other hand, are obsessed with causes. They want to know the mechanism behind everything. Not just the ball fell, but why did the ball fall? Not just grandma's sick, but why is she sick? Psychologist Michael Siegel calls this the child's inner scientist. They're forming hypotheses, testing them, updating their worldview, and why is their primary research tool. Now here's a twist. Not every why is purely about information. Researchers at the University of Michigan found something fascinating. Sometimes kids already know the answer to the question they're asking. They ask anyway. Why? Because asking why also keeps the conversation going. It keeps you engaged. It's a social tool as much as a cognitive one. Kids are learning how to have conversations, how to hold someone's attention, how to signal curiosity. And a well-placed why does all of that at once. So the next time your kid asks why the sun is hot for the 4th time, they might actually already know it's hot because it's a giant ball of fire. They might just want to keep talking to you. Devastatingly cute, slightly manipulative, very human. Here's the part that should make us all a little uncomfortable. Research shows that somewhere around age 10 or 11, kids start asking fewer questions in school. Not because they've figured out everything, but because they've learned from teachers, from classrooms, from social cues, that asking too many questions can be seen as annoying, slow, or disruptive. By childhood, most of us have significantly dialed back the why. And that's a shame, because that instinct, that drive to understand causes, to push past surface level answers, that's literally the engine behind science, philosophy, innovation, and critical thinking. The kids asking 300 questions a day aren't a handful. They're operating at peak cognitive curiosity. And the goal, honestly, should be to protect that, not train it out of them. So the next time a kid hits you with an infinite why chain, instead of deflecting, try following it. See where it goes. Because 9 times out of 10, you'll hit a question you can't answer either. And that's kind of the point. If you found this interesting, hit subscribe and drop in the comments What's the best why question a kid has ever stumped you with? Thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.